Against Sydney in the A-League, a 2-1 loss. There was City's first of last season, but they did go on, of course, to claim the Premiership at a canter before falling well short in the big one against the Mariners. Referee today is Jack Morgan, originally from Hampshire in the UK, but now based out of Melbourne. The Cup was where it all started for Steve Corica, a win over Rockdale in 2018 that set in train his era, which has so far brought one Premiership and two championships, but not so far the Cup. There's Robbie Mack, who's been away on international duty the last couple of weeks with Slovakia, did pretty well as well, scoring against Liechtenstein. It is a glorious sunny spring afternoon in Melbourne, temperatures in the low 20s, and this should be a cracking game of football. Sydney, of course, will have revenge on their minds after their A-League finals hopes were ended at Amy Park in quite emphatic fashion last May. Max Burgess's red card ensuring there was no way back in that two-legged semi as City blew them away. This should be a fascinating contest, Daniel McBreen. Which way does this one go, do you fancy?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Simon. I think this is two heavyweights of the A-League, particularly in recent years. And I just think maybe the catalogue of changes for Melbourne City may prove a little too much this early in their campaign. I think Sydney FC have shown quite good cohesion and looked very solid. So I'm tipping Sydney on this one, but I don't think it's going to be an easy one.
As Daniel Gard mentioned in the pre-game show, just 3 of last season's squad involved from the off for Melbourne City here this afternoon. Sydney looking a little bit more settled, but a clutch of new signings on the bench. Just reminding those incumbents in the starting 11 today that they won't have things all their own way in terms of those jerseys. Driven forward towards halfway, and Joe Lolly for Sydney FC, who are playing in their change strip this afternoon. Caceres, former Melbourne City player, of course, so 1 or 2 boos, I think, from the home fans. And City looking to spring forward. Arslan riding the first challenge, and there's no foul on the second from Luke Bratton. Even though the former German under-21 international thought that there should have been, in terms of the whistle from Jack Morgan, which never came. This is the 4th meeting in the Cup between these two, incidentally. They played off in the very first Australia Cup, FFA Cup as it then was, in 2014, a game that went to extra time. Sydney FC winning 3-1. Here's Joe Lolly going to have a go. First effort of the game. It wasn't too far away, but always a fraction too high. But hasn't he been in great form in this Cup competition?
Yeah, he has, and he does that so well. Loves to drive inside. You leave those space like that. I think it was the last round we said the same thing. You can't let players of his quality drift into those positions, because you give him time and space, he will take the shot. He's been fantastic, not only getting the shots away, but also turning provider for his teammates as well.
Jamie McLaren putting on enough pressure to earn Melbourne City a throw. He'll be eager to get to the Australia Cup final as well and become a winner. All of his major finals that he's played, he's lost, Jamie McLaren, strangely enough. City were A-League champions, of course, in 2021, but he was away on international duty that particular season and didn't feature.
Well, let's hope he gets through this game first and that young one doesn't come too early and we have to see him exit. But he had a relatively quiet night in the Champions League midweek.
As did City generally. Half a new team takes time to gel. No foul there on Callum Talbot, former Sydney FC defender, of course. Made the switch at the start of last season to Victoria. Cyprian getting tight, a little too tight as it turns out, on Patrick Wood. That's going to be an interesting battle between those two.
I thought you were going to say it was an interesting haircut again. He's gone back to the bleach blonde. Didn't recognise him for a second, but yeah, it's a tough two he's up against tonight. This afternoon, Patrick Wood, experience in the race. Cyprian, can he keep that record of scoring in every round going?
City composed enough to play through the high press, and Talbot will gallop forward down the right. Almost overran it. Gets the return from Lopane. And Nuno Reis. Cyprian replacing Curtis Good today. And works it out nicely towards Aziz Bayic, returning for his third spell, of course, with the club. After being relegated in Scotland with Dundee United last season. This is Steven Ugarkovic, another one of the new arrivals. Is that going to stay alive for City? No.
But you mentioned Steve Ugarkovic there, one of the new arrivals. And you keep mentioning that Arslan scored in every round, and I think Steven Ugarkovic has to feel a little hard done by with his long-range effort that skipped the head of Arslan on the way through, and he's not taken the credit for it.
You're telling me that you wouldn't claim that as a striker?
I'm not saying I wouldn't, but I'm sure Stevie was trying to claim it as well. But my notes, I kept everywhere I looked at Steven Ugarkovic goal, and I've seen it hasn't been given to him.
Jamie McLaren trying to steal him behind here. There's a little bit of miscommunication in the Sydney FC defence, but they managed to sort things out. Bratton will play it out towards Robert Mack on the left. Here's Luke Bratton, who hit the post after 5 minutes against Western United last week, which was the signal for a very dominant display. It's a lovely touch by Caceres. Keely Adamson on the right. Caceres again. Looking to work those little triangles, Sydney. Lolly. There's no way through for the Englishman. Oh, that challenge from Rodwell was late and from behind, and the referee might come back to that, but it's a good advantage that they played. 3 waiting in the box for Sydney, and there's a foul. No. By Joel King. Well, I have to say I fancied that there might have been a bit of contact there, but Jack Morgan is closer than we are and said nothing doing. Rodwell's was certainly an infringement.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised that hasn't brought some more attention from the referee. The challenge on Jamie McLaren back in his own half, and then on my first vision there, I thought that was a foul as well on the edge of the penalty box.
Redmayne to go long. Bayic underneath it. Here's Lolly. Cyprian was goal side of Patrick Wood. A bright start on a bright day in Melbourne. Tolgay Arslan. One thing we haven't mentioned, Naka, so far is Melbourne City's excellent home record at Amy Park, unbeaten in the A-League last season, on their own deck, 10 wins, 3 draws. But it's Sydney on the attack here. Anthony Caceres leading the charge. Joe Lolly wide right, trying to drive it across and sends up yet another assist. Can have a go himself here. Oh, the deflection took it onto the crossbar with Jamie Young beaten, and he's grateful for the intervention of the woodwork. It's going to be a Sydney FC corner.
It's a wonderful strike again. I mentioned mentioned, he loves to come inside, get shots away. Saris with the little layoff on that time, and the deflection almost took it away from Jamie Young into his own net. He's been in fine form as well, Jamie Young.
Sydney corner. Max delivery. Good header away at the near post by Nuno Reyes. Mac will reload. Caceres had his pocket picked. And City will now look to try and counter. Not quite quick enough in transition though. Joe Lolly again proving he is in red-hot form in this Australia Cup competition. That's a lovely threaded ball through. And the shot from long range. This is wide of that right-hand upright off Saki. Hamza Saki, the Moroccan-born, French-raised attacking midfielder.
That was great positioning from Saki there. Picked out by Arslan. Good positioning between the lines and then driving forward. That's the kind of positioning that Jamie McLaren would want to see too as a 9, as we saw him making the forward run into the box. On this occasion, Saki took the shot. If he keeps himself in those positions, getting forward facing, and Jamie McLaren will provide the runs in behind.
Pinged out towards Lolly by Bratton. As Adamson outside, who's going to have another go here. It's 3 efforts on goal already by Joe Lolly.
Well, he's certainly in the mood, isn't he? Another cut inside onto that left foot. 3 shots from almost a similar area in the first 10 minutes. It's something that Melbourne City will have to address.
After 5 assists in the Australia Cup, maybe he's decided it's time he scores one. It's a City free kick. Steven Ugarkovic is bumped off the ball by Luke Bratton. Nicely worked out of that defensive line, and Ugarkovic will drift through the midfield spaces for Sydney FC tidy up in the shape of Corey Holman, and exactly where Andrew Redmayne wanted the ball to go.
Well, Melbourne City midfielders are finding a little space in behind that press of the Sydney players, and it's coming to fruition.
Talbot's cross, steered away by Rodwell. Arslan. Nuno Reyes. Again, that little pocket of space for Steven Ugarkovic. Might have the measure of the ball, though, for Callum Talbot. Bratton under pressure here and fouled. Let's go down to Michael Zappone. Afternoon, Zappa.
Good afternoon, Simon. Fantastic day for football here in Melbourne. Tolgay Arslan, you mentioned, has been very good for Melbourne City in this Australia Cup competition, and he's got some links in Melbourne as well. His uncle lives here, so that helped him make the decision to come in. One of those players who looks like he's always got plenty of time on the ball. He's never rushed. Danny McBreen, you touched on the fact he's been finding those pockets, and he does it so well. So a terrific signing if the early form is any indication.
And it's a lovely ball by Tolgay Arslan. Big chance here for Melbourne City. And Andrew Redmayne stood tall to deny Marin Yakulis. What a chance for Rado Vidicic's side.
Well, he got the finish all wrong. The lead-up play was fantastic and a lovely ball through. And when the whole right-hand side of the goal was beckoning, could only manage to find the frame of Andrew Redmayne at the near post. And that's a glorious opportunity for Melbourne City to take the lead.
Marian Yakulis is on loan from Angers in France. Nominally the replacement for Marco Tilio on that left-hand side. You mentioned, Michael Zaboni mentioned Tolga Arslan's links to Melbourne. Yakulis' father is actually Australian. He's from Melbourne, lived in the city for 15 years, so Yakulis not here as an import, but as a local, and he wants to represent Australia. He's going to have to do a bit better than that, I think, to impress Graham Arnold.
Well, let's have another look at it. You see here, just plays the ball inside and just waits. Arslan there, just waits, has a look, measures it, and in this here you see he really needs to bend that into the far side of the goal. Redmayne was rooted to the spot at the near post. But lovely build-up play from Melbourne City.
Here's Sydney's response. Caceres, clever work. Robbie Mack has help available from Joel King, who will swing in the cross. Bajic sends it back from whence it came, and it's a Sydney throw. A good lively start to this game, which is now a quarter of an hour in. King's cross, and Lolly was just waiting to apply the finishing touch. Little clip ball by Arslan, that's a foul. Clumsy by Caceres. And Jack Morgan decides it's worthy of a yellow card. Yeah, didn't really have eyes for the ball, did he, Caceres?
Not really, no. I think Alessandro Lopane, as he was taking the touch, realised he needed to brace himself because Caceres was coming bearing down on him.
Freshly arrived from Western Sydney Wanderers, where he made just 7 appearances off the bench last season. Gone in search of more opportunities with City. Ugarkovic, who's been busy in these early stages. Saki takes over. Ugarkovic still down. Here's Bajic. And City will look after their teammate and put the ball out so he can get some attention.
Well, let's have another look at this. For mine, it looked like a foul. He gets his foot across. Bratton here, he just gets that foot across, and then Bratton just ticks the foot out, catches him. Oh, and then he comes down. That's the part there.
That's the bit that
hurts.
hurts.
The second one hurt. I don't think there was any malice in that at all. It was just timing. Just tried to get up and get that ball.
Tolga Arslan again looking to release his teammates down that left-hand side, which he did to such good effect with Yakulis some moments ago. Here is Yakulis. Now they've got 3, but McLaren's gone too early.
Oh, I think that was a tight one. I thought Jack Rodwell may have just kept him onside. Good if we could get another look at that one. I thought Jamie McLaren, maybe the pace. Let's see. The ball comes through. Tell you what.
Yeah.
Your face said you weren't too sure. You thought it was an easy one, but I think it was tighter than we expected.
No VAR in operation, of course, in the Australia Cup. It's the latest free kick given for the foul by Jake Girdwood-Reich, who is continuing in that central defensive role where he has really excelled in this Australia Cup competition. Oh, and there's a bit going on here, you know. Patrick Wood was late there on Bajic as well. And Jack Morgan just has to keep a bit of a lid on this. Bajic looking to steal in behind. Sorted out by Adamson, and now the flag goes up against the Melbourne City fullback. Warm work in that late afternoon sunshine.
Through the short straw on the far side.
Turned back by Cyprien. Young given the hurry along by Patrick Woods. Well, City have done well again to play out through that press. And Bajic is away down the left. Yakulis. Little no-look pass, the return for Bajic. Gertwood Reich was guarding the near post. Brought down very cleverly by Jugarkovic. Saki's ball, Yakulis. Little clip over the top for Talbot. Saki again. And it might just sit here for Yakulis. Wouldn't quite for the Croat. Jack Morgan just had a little look there at his linesman because the goal kick was disputed. He got no indication that it was any different to what he'd signalled.
Well, the Melbourne City players and fans thought that was a corner.
Good contest though.
Now it is 20 minutes in. I think the Melbourne City midfield really probably dominated the match so far. Winning that battle in the midfield and finding space like this to move the ball forward. Garkovic, Saki and Arslan, all three of them doing a stellar job in midfield.
You look at Tolga Arslan's CV in particular. He is a top quality player. Udinese, Hamburg, Besiktas, Fenerbahce. Here's Callum Talbot looking to cut it back towards McLaren at the near post. Arslan was actually offered an extended deal by Udinese in Serie A and turned it down because he wanted to come and play in Australia.
Well, definite quality there. And we're seeing that starting to shine through already in this Australia Cup.
Here he is on the ball again. Looking to poke it through, and there's a little coming together there. Yakulis and Keely Adamson. And I fancy Yakulis is a little unfortunate there. I think he had his legs taken from him.
Yeah. Adamson got it all wrong. He was on the wrong side. Yakulis had just slipped on the inside of him, and that's a danger position for defenders.
Sydney FC maybe dodged a bit of a bullet there. Gertwood Reich. Lolly. He's had Sydney's three best opportunities. He's going to unleash again here. Make that four.
Well, on that occasion when he came inside, he looked like he was waiting for a runner in behind, someone to play a little 1-2, and it just kept opening up in front of him. You see here, he looks, he dims, and then says, well, I'll take it upon myself again.
Well, if Melbourne City continue to give him that sort of space cutting inside, sooner or later he's going to connect properly with one. More than capable.
And I think that's what Jamie Young was just saying to his defenders. That's 4 times now. I don't want to see it again.
Bajic. Arslan wins the throw. Jamie Young with that off-season switch from Western United. So he played in his very first Cup semi-final today at the age of 38. Just goes to show you're never too old to experience something new, particularly in this competition. I do remember a certain striker who's in his 40s when he scored in this competition. Certainly Demon Green.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking Jamie Young's just a pup, isn't he? He's got plenty of years to go.
That was one heck of a goal, by the way, that you scored.
Thanks, mate. Good commentary, too.
It's for Edgeworth Eagles, of course, against the Jets. There's that little coming together of the legs.
I tell you what, they've got away with that one there. Keely Adamson's on the wrong side. Whether it's clumsy or not, he just takes the legs for mine of Yakulis. And that should have been a free kick and a potential red card, really.
Well, for all Melbourne City's comfort on the ball, Sydney have created the greater number of opportunities. See if City can fashion something here. Not like that, they won't through Bajic. They'll get a throw off Bratton. As is Bajic filling the boots of Jordy Boss and Scott Jamison this coming season. Here's a chance for Callum Talbot. And it took a touch on the way through. So it's going to be a corner, and there are one or two ironic cheers from the home supporters. Still thinking about that corner they feel they should have had a couple of minutes back.
Well, it wasn't the most vicious of strikes, and I think Andrew Redmayne just got his bearings a little wrong there. He apologised to his teammates after. Maybe he could have let that one go.
So Hamza Saki to deliver the Melbourne City corner towards the near post. Drill back in with pace. Here's Supriyan to try and tee up a teammate. Ugarkovic looking to bend it in towards the back post. And the flag is up. Against Yakulis.
Gee, it was a wonderful ball in from Ugarkovic, wasn't it?
Sorry, go on, Macca.
I was just about to say, like you say, there's more shots from Sydney FC, but Melbourne City seem the most likely, don't they? Those 4 shots all coming from the one man in Lolly, all from outside the area. Melbourne City look to be more likely to carve up that Sydney FC defence, carve an opening through the middle. The combination plays a little better through midfield.
Joe Lolly's hit the crossbar, but that was courtesy of a deflection. And at the other end, really, Marin Yakulis should have given City the lead. Could only fire his efforts straight at Andrew Redmayne instead. Girdwood Reich. Lolly. Jack Rodwell, who was outstanding against Western United at Leichhardt Oval last week. Got his first goal in Sydney FC colours. A third in that 3-0 win. Mack and King have done well in tight spaces. And Sydney could be in here. It's Caceres. Really stick for him. City survive and now look to counter. Lapane, McLaren, and well defended in the end by Jake Girdwood Reich.
Well, I fancy that opportunity down the other end for Sydney FC. If it fell on Anthony Caceres' right foot, he would have wrapped it towards goal. It was on his left. Rather second-guessed himself and the moment was lost.
This is the first of 2 big Australia Cup semi-finals in this city today. Melbourne Knights against Brisbane Roar to come a little bit later. As Lolly threads the ball through and Patrick Woods races away and gets clear of Supriyan. It's Patrick Woods and it's off the uprights. Sydney denied by the frame of the goal for the second time in this first half. It is going to be a corner. It might have been more.
Great releasing pass from Robbie Mack, but look at the pace here from Patrick Wood. Jamie Young at the near post gets just enough touch on it to deflect it onto the post.
Wood hits the woodwork. Here's the corner. Oh, Jamie Young was pawing at the ball, but he was impeded. Just waited for your linebacker. The goalkeeper's got away with too much.
Well, there wasn't too much arguing from Joe Lolly, but didn't seem to be too much in it, did there? I'll never change my opinion on that, by the way.
That's clever by Bratton. Little hook over the back of his head. Or Mack. Turned back inside by King. Bratton harried by Lapane. Rodwell moves it out back towards King. Goes to that little angle ball for Joe Lolly. Now Sydney will look to press once again. There's no foul there on Arslan. It's not the best release by Bratton. He and Caceres not on the same page at all. And Yakelis saw the imposing figure of Jake Girdwood right coming towards him and thought, right, you can have that one. Here's Tolgay Arslan. Rides that challenge. Worked out wide by Ugarkovic. Arslan still down. Clipped into the box by Saki. And away by Rodwell. Saki again. Arslan back to his feet, but rather gingerly. Talbot's crossing. Did that glance off the hands of Joel King? Still alive for City. Chance for McLaren. Arslan trying to place it. And it was Corey Holman who got his body in the way. Still there for Melbourne City. Talbot. Tolgay Arslan. And still. And Sydney got numbers and bodies behind the ball, and then there's a foul on Lolly. Was there a handball?
Well, I thought this was a handball there.
It's outside the penalty
box.
area.
So I think Melbourne City would rather the play on. Sydney FC did enough bodies and enough desperation to block any ball heading towards goal.
Luke Bratton a little slow to get back to his feet. Readjustment of the boots. Taking over the captain's armband this year from a now retired Alex Wilkinson. Given away carelessly by King. That wasn't the best pass either, but it's worked out all right for Melbourne City. Saki. Talbot. Ugarkovic. Saki. Bratton arriving a little late.
There's been a few fouls for Bratton now in that midfield. I think he might be on a bit of a last one warning from the referee.
Sheer accumulation of fouls. Here's the latest of them. Saki just a bit too quick for him. Talbot with a bit of time here. Ugarkovic. Back wide for Talbot. Back out again for Saki. Neat football by Melbourne City. Saki. Sydney sat very deep. Here's Alessandro Lapane. Joel King sticking to the task. That's well played. Caceres. Dug out by Mack. Worked out wide towards Joe Lolly. Keely Adamson pushing forward in support alongside him. Looking to clip the cross in now towards Patrick Woods. And up and away from Melbourne City.
Get us up! Get us up!
That's the 8th Australian Cup tie that Melbourne City have hosted. They've only lost one of the previous 7. That was against Western Sydney Wanderers by 2-1 back in 2018. Sydney's records here against City is not great. They've lost each of the last 5 meetings in the A-League, that is. Conceding 17 goals in the process. Their last win at this venue against City, November 2018, 3-0 they won that day. One for Paolo Retre and a double for Adam Lafondra, both now departed, of course, during the off-season.
Well, I wonder if any of the Melbourne City staff have conveyed that message to all the new Melbourne City players. You don't lose here. We don't lose here to Sydney, but we don't lose here to anyone.
Well, their last loss at Amy Park, if you exclude the away derby against Melbourne Victory last season, last home loss was the grand final 2022 against Western United. Here's Talbot. Oh, and a bit of a slip from Rodwell. Behind it goes for a corner nonetheless. Glorious blue skies in Melbourne. Perfect day for football.
Come on!
Andrew Redmayne doing the organising. Played a few years at Melbourne City as well, of course. Corner clipped in towards the near post. Oh, it wasn't bad, was it? From, is it Suprian with the header in the end? No, Nuno Reis.
It wasn't a bad ball in. He just held his ground with strength, didn't he, Nuno Reis there? Just couldn't quite guide it on target.
Yet to score for Melbourne City, the Portuguese defender. It's careless from both players. Gertwood Reich and Jakulis. Lolly. Always keen to look for the ball. Oh, Caceres, what a first touch. And Sydney are appealing for a penalty. Jack Morgan is unmoved. A talking point.
A big talking point. What about the touch from Anthony Caceres to drag that ball through the line of defence? For mine on first viewing.
It could be away again here. It's Patrick Woods. Oh, great finish. Patrick Woods into the roof of the net. He scores for the 4th consecutive game in this year's Australia Cup. And Sydney are in front just before half-time. And it is a thunderous blow struck by Pat Wood.
Well, there was a wonderful ball in behind and a great timed run. And then it was about pace. And then it's power in the strike. Jamie Young goes down low. Patrick Wood goes up high and smashes it into the roof of the net. And the run continues for the bleached blonde assassin up front.
Well, Sydney FC won't be worrying about the non-award of that penalty now. Woods hit the post earlier on in the game. Joe Lolly hit the crossbar, but now they have struck. And he's maybe just had a little look at Fabio Gomez on the Sydney FC bench and said, "You're going to have to wait, my friend."
Well, I'm trying to think back, do I think of Patrick Wood as being an exceptionally quick player? Well, he's really shown a quick pair of heels on a couple of occasions here today, and could that be an Achilles heel for Melbourne City in that back line? Pace of the Nuno Reis Suprayan, because he's left them for dead twice now. One's ended in a ball cannoning off the post, and the second one's ended up in the roof of the net.
Maybe Steve Corica will play both Wood and Gomez.
Well,
who knows?
We've seen them play 4-4-2 before with two strikers, haven't we? It's something there a lot of these Sydney players would be accustomed to. Well, you can't drop him, can you? Or you'd be a very strong manager to do so and sit him down and explain why.
And you know, the other problem with playing the two up top, that shifts Anthony Caceres' role, who's looked so good as that number 10, that sole number 10. So Melbourne City have got a problem. What can they do about it? They're building something potentially here. Suprayan. Samuel Suprayan again, who played alongside Florent Berenguer during his stays back at his native France with Dijon. Maybe played a part in him coming to Australia. Berenguer, of course, now with Brisbane. He'll be involved in semi-final action a little bit later on today against the Melbourne Knights. Also live and free on 10 Play, of course. One of McLaren well marshalled in the first instance by Gerd Woodreich. Forward by Adamson for Sydney. 1-2 friendly there between Bajic and Wood.
He's had a bit of feeling that today, hasn't it? Saw Patrick Wood earlier into Bajic on the sideline. Robust challenge.
Well, Melbourne City won't panic. They left it very late before coming from behind against the Metro Stars in the previous round.
Earlier in the season cup as well, didn't they? Stokely.
Lepane quite able to angle it out towards Yakulis on the right. Arslan. Ugarkovic. Around the corner from Talbot. Yakulis, little scoop over the top, was clever. And the ball lowered hard, steered clear away by Gerd Woodreich. And Melbourne City have to settle for a corner. They're pushing, probing City. Nice little dink that from Yakulis.
Play from Arslan as well, using the body to roll the defender, create the space for the cross.
Suprayan and Nuno Reis again in the mix for the corner. Back to clear upfield. All the way back to Jamie Young. Foul by Adamson on Lepane. We mentioned last week Keely Adamson still on the NPL contract. Wonder if his performances are maybe tempting Sydney FC to upgrade him.
He's had a couple of difficult moments today, but his performances up until this stage might have been of a very high standard.
He's got caught out of position there. Here's Lopane, the little reverse ball that was just too strong for Bajic. And all those little moments, part of the learning curve, I guess, for Keely Adamson.
Yeah, they are. I think this is probably the most difficult occasion I've seen him have in this competition. He's been very assured in the previous matches. Just getting caught out of position a couple of occasions today.
Joel King needed 2 bites of that. And on balance, Macca, as we head towards stoppage time at the end of the first half, is that the right scoreline in terms of the balance of play or not?
Well, I think both teams have had good opportunities to score. I knew it was always going to be a tight affair. It's panned out that way. Melbourne City, with Yakulis in particular, really should have scored. But Woods had 2 great chances. So I think all in all, it's probably pretty fair.
That's clever by King. Caceres. Routine for Jamie Young. Filling the gloves of Tom Glover between the posts for Melbourne City this season. It's that time for Melbourne City to launch one more attack before the break. Lovely feet by Hamza Saki, and that is half-time. A really good contest, but Pat Wood's goal in the 38th minute divides the 2 teams. Just prior to that, Sydney had a shout for a penalty turned down. Jamie Young has been grateful to the frame of the goal twice, which has denied Joe Lolly and Pat Wood at the other end. A big chance for Marin Yakulis. City some nice approach play, but a little bit blunt in that final third. But still, plenty more to come in this Australia Cup semi-final. At the break at Amy Park, it's Melbourne City 0, Sydney FC 1.
Yeah, Pat Wood's wonderful Australia Cup campaign continues. Lots of work for Melbourne City to do if they are a chance to make the Australia Cup final. Alex Brosk and Daniel McBreen will join me on the other side of this break to go through all the first half action. The first half of this Australia Cup semi-final doubleheader has not disappointed. Sydney FC have the lead. Melbourne City have been lively, and there's been no shortage of feeling in this one. On a beautiful sunny day in Melbourne. I'm Daniel Garb, delighted to have your company alongside Alex Brosk and Daniel McBreen. It's been a really exciting first half of action. Sydney FC with the lead, but Melbourne City plenty of chances, boys.
Yeah, they have. It's been a great game to watch. I think both sides, we sort of mentioned that lack of cohesion that we've seen so far in previous games from Melbourne City, but tonight it looked, or today it's looked good. The ball movement, the midfield has been great. They had, a few chances as well, but I think, going into that Patrick Wood goal, it sort of seemed like at any moment there was a goal coming, some big chances, some big decisions as well that were missed or let go by the referee. But overall, I've enjoyed the first half.
The best thing to do when you've got an import striker coming in to potentially take your spot is keep scoring.
Well,
and Patrick Wood's done that yet again.
Yeah, exactly right. He's had a couple of great opportunities. He showed great pace. Now, I've said it in commentary. I'm not sure that I've always thought of him as a super fast player. So maybe that's something opposition will be looking at now. But he's had two chances, and this one here, not only is it the pace, but there he just cuts across and closes that angle a little bit and uses the absolute power to just smash it over to Jamie Young's head. And that's what he's asked for to do, and he's done it really well on this occasion.
Yeah, good to see that as well, because he had a chance earlier where he used that pace again, got inside again. Everything he just mentioned in that goal, he's cut inside and opened himself up for what seemed like a finish to the far post. Yeah. He gets it wrong, but for him to keep going, keep making those runs, and then get his reward has been great.
And you can see by the stats that Sydney FC have been happy to let Melbourne City have possession, but then with the pace of Patrick Wood, they can threaten on the counter-attack. But Melbourne City have asked plenty of questions of Sydney FC at the back as well. So 7 shots apiece, and they had a couple of penalty shouts, Melbourne City, which was certainly worthy of the referee's attention. Nothing was given in the end, but the Sydney FC defence did look a little bit shaky in the early stages.
Now that's the offside there that I think, for me, Jamie McLaren's onside there, and I know we don't have VAR to call back on, so when it's hard when a player's making a run, but he's made the decision. Now, for me here, that's a clear foul. Now, I'm just wondering if the officials have looked at that and said, was he going to reach the ball? That may have been the mitigating circumstance, but I still think it's a foul. Again, a handball here. So Melbourne City will probably be sitting there at the moment going, everything's going against us at the moment, and they're a goal down, and they're wondering what they need to do to get something to go their way.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been a penalty to Yakulits, but certainly a free kick and potentially a red card, as you say. But going the other way, Patrick Wood we've spoken about. But then the old firm of Robert Mack and Joe Lolly have looked dangerous. They led the way for Sydney FC on the flanks last season. In particular, Joe Lolly, the Englishman, who now seems even more settled after that first campaign under his belt.
He does, looks a lot more at home here in Sydney, and in the opening 10 minutes I think he had 3 chances on his own. So look, he's one of those players, just has a beautiful left foot. This one here took a deflection, but he's always looking to cut inside, and he's just, I'm not going to compare him to Messi, but he's that sort of player where you know what he's going to do, but you still can't stop him. You know he's more often than not cutting inside onto his left foot, but he's hard to stop, and he's been great again tonight. And
Did you
could
just
have
call
had a
him
goal.
the Sydney Messi?
No, that's not.
I think that's where you were going with it.
But, the more things change around the final third for Sydney FC, Macca, they're going to need Joe Lolly and Robert Mack to reproduce and maybe even lift their game even more.
Yeah, look, I think Robbie Mack's probably been a little quiet for his liking today. Joe Lolly, though, gets any opportunity to shoot around the edge of the box, he will take it. So Melbourne City have to be wary of that because, as Simon said in the call, that's 4 they've given him around from the same area, and he can strike a ball well. He gets another couple. One of them's going to fly in the net. So they need to close that space down and not let him come inside.
We're at the semi-final stage. Sydney FC lead 1-0. It's a very big afternoon and evening of football ahead, but so much has transpired in this Australia Cup so far. Let's check out the best goals of the competition to this point.
Defence of Inglewood. Now the ball comes back into the box. And hello, Fabian Barbiero, you show off. What a goal. Overhead kick.
Cross from Bandiera to the back post. This could fall kindly. Shot! Goal! Solomon John Monaghan Baker scores for the home side. Albano driving through. Albano, he's got options. He's going to shoot. Dean Albano opens the scoring for Melbourne 9. The hosts have a 1-0 lead in the Australia Cup. The Lions a sloppy turnover and their mate to pay.
It's almost, and it is turned away. That time, an unbelievable strike once more. Josh Pinn this time. It was turned over by Chris Marr, and Josh Pinn said thank you very much.
And Jaden Kucharski reloads. He looks up at Kaltak. Has he got one moment of magic in him? Kucharski with a bender! Remember the name! Jaden Kucharski! And now Zabala's crossed in. Waddingham this time gets his goal. The first ever senior goal with Brisbane Roar for the scholarship player Tom Waddingham.
City controlling the bulk of possession. Might be about to add to the tally. McLaren strikes again. He loves playing against Wellington and he loves scoring in front of these fans.
Beadling trying to steer it in behind. What a ball by Tom Beadling. It's Brandon Borrello. It's in. It's 5 for Western Sydney Wanderers.
Gow wants a short. He gets it short on the edge of the area. Now gets it into the box.
Nagamatsu with a hit. And there it is. Nagamatsu in added time has given Metro Stars the lead and possibly the win.
Rolante, Clisby finding himself in a central area and having a hit from range. Oh my word! Jack Clisby with one of the goals of the tournament. The fullback picking up a central area, going whack and levelling it for his side.
Knights fans wanting a foul there. Mitch Hoare comes up with the ball. Hoare with a chance now for Alberto! What a terrific build-up by the Knights! And they're back in it!
Melbourne Knights will be hoping for more of that from Gian Albano, who scored plenty of goals in the Australia Cup and for them over the last few years. They take on the Brisbane Roar after this first game for a spot in the Australia Cup final. Sydney FC lead Melbourne City at the break. It's a wonderful competition, of course, and it's all building up to a massive A-Leagues campaign coming up as well.
Driving into the box. Oh! Nestori Iraconda.
Here's turn shoot. Oh my goodness, what a goal! What a strike from Gio Colli. Now Madison Haley for the finishing touch. And she's got it. And now the celebrations can really begin.
10 years in the making. The fairy tale is complete. The Central Coast Mariners, champions of Australia. Well, Patrick Wood is the hero of the hour so far for Sydney FC, scoring for the 4th consecutive game in this Australia Cup, and that is the difference between the two sides as they come back out for the second half. Big season ahead, perhaps, for the 20-year-old. Wants to get that regular starting berth. He's got the Paris Olympics in mind as well, and he's certainly made a good start to this campaign. Sydney FC halfway to what would be a 4th Australia Cup final. They are going to make a couple of changes at the break. We're going to see the introduction of Max Burgess, whose last game here at Amy Park, you might remember, ended in a red card. Ryan Grant is also going to be introduced. Keely Adamson is one of those whose number has been called. Grant will go into the right fullback position, as Alex Wilkinson, of course. Now player liaison officer with Sydney FC, where he played for so many years. So a double change. Ryan Grant and Max Burgess on. Melbourne City, as you were. They drew a blank during the week against Venfret Kofu, and similar story again here in the first half. In the first of these 2 Australia Cup semi-finals, that's a clever dummy by Patrick Wood to get away from Nuno Reyes. He's not got an awful lot of help. Max alongside now. Still Wood. Yeah, that was ambitious, I think. Daniel McBreen.
Yeah, it was. Great work initially. I just thought maybe after his show of speed in the first half, he may have just ran at Cyprian then and just tried to go outside him. Opted to slow down a little, and the Melbourne City reinforcements came back.
Three of Melbourne City's last 4 cup exits have come at home, not always at Amy Park. Last reached the final in 2019, where you might remember Adelaide United really put them to the sword at Cooper Stadium, winning by 4 goals to 0. There's certainly something, Macca, that City will want to address this season. Their regular competence for silverware, but they've lost 3 of 4 major finals now. A couple of grand finals and that FFA Cup final as it was back in 2019.
Well, we've seen over the past 3 seasons and over the long haul, they had no problem, but maybe the big occasion, as you say, is there a mental aspect to that? Is there something they can look in to try and fix that part of it? Grand finals and cup finals are completely different occasions to winning the league. Different mentality needed. And well, it's a whole new squad now, isn't it, basically? So it's all about getting the culture and the mentality right with this group of players, getting them to mend together.
Burgess getting involved, but slightly behind Joe Lolly. Incidentally, just to update you on the other Sydney player who came off along with Keely Adamson, that's Corey Holman. Ryan Grant and Max Burgess on in their stead. The ball breaks kindly here for you. Garkovic trying to feed McLaren. He's not had an awful lot of service so far, the Melbourne City captain.
No, he only had probably 2 half chances in the Champions League game midweek. And think of a single opportunity or a time where he's got the ball anywhere near the opposition penalty box.
Burgess. Ball still in play. Melbourne City seemed to stop for a moment. The ball for Mack wasn't of the requisite quality. And Callum Talbot to carry the ball forward for City. And still on McLaren and Talbot completely getting their wires crossed. Burgess couldn't quite wriggle clear. Hamza Saki. Pitch now almost completely bathed in shadow on this glorious spring afternoon in Melbourne. Steven Ugarkovic with time and room to turn. Bajic, what's left of the afternoon sunlight on that far side of the pitch. Tolgay Arslan trying to pick his way through. Turn back by Bratton. See how bright that sunlight is in that little sliver of the far side of the pitch. Players having to shield their eyes. Down the line by King. No problems on this near side. That's a lovely weighted ball from Burgess. Mack. Just left it a fraction short, didn't he, the Slovakian?
Yeah, I think we need to see a little bit more from the Sydney FC perspective from Robert Mack today. He's been a little quiet by his standards.
Rodwell winning it in the air. Brought down nicely by Lolly. Worked wide by Burgess for Mack. Patrick Woods with Nuno Reis nipping at his heels, and that's a free kick for Sydney FC. They've had quite the battle, those two.
And at the moment, Patrick Woods winning. You see there, gets his body across. Nuno Reis.
Not a naughty challenge there.
Yeah, it could have been a little worse if he got some better contact.
Challenge from behind has long been outlawed. Let's see if Sydney FC can exact some punishment here. Mack shapes to take it. Lolly does, and it was into that little corridor where you'd expect your teammates to be attacking.
Well, Robbie Mack and Joe Lolly just looked at each other as if to say, well, was that not a good ball? It was a wonderful ball into the danger area. No one making that a real wholehearted run to get there. It's all a bit half-hearted, maybe.
Ugarkovic losing out, and Sydney FC have got numbers here in this attack. Or Wood trying to slip it through. Breaks for Burgess. Mack with Joel King arriving. Sydney building nicely. Another dangerous ball across the face with nobody there to apply the finishing touch. And Melbourne City living rather dangerously at the start of this second half.
Yeah, Sydney have come out in the second half, moving the ball around well. Lovely overlapping play from Joel King there.
City, of course, missing two of their big stars, Matt Leckie and Andrew Nabbout. They won't be available for quite some time. Well, in fact, the whole season so far as Andrew Nabbout is concerned. You look at the strength of the two benches, and Sydney FC's packed with experience. Melbourne City all leaning towards the youngsters. Scott Galloway and Terry Antonis the exceptions. AFC almost look to have 2 players for every position.
Yeah, I was just looking through that myself, thinking Steve Coric has fleshed out the squad quite well. There's depth, there's experience that he can call on off the bench.
Good soft touch by Jamie Young to set himself up for the clearance under pressure. Gertwood Reich for Sydney. Let's go down to Michael Zapone.
We just saw Aziz Bajic take that throw in. Important match minutes for him. We heard about Rado Vidicic, I should say, talk about how important it was for his team to get these minutes in their legs. They've got the Asian Champions League. They had it midweek. They've got another game coming up next week as well. Of course, Aziz Bajic did feature in Graham Arnold Socceroos' squad, but didn't play in that friendly against Mexico. But he'll come into the reckoning again for the squad, which is announced next week, Simon, for that big game against England at Wembley. Geordie Boss, of course, the other one who will look to be coming back into the squad after going out with an appendix.
Good ball across the face, a goal again for Sydney. Here's Robert Mack. Can he find the angle? It's going to be a Sydney corner, thanks to Michael Zapone. Yeah, Melbourne City's next fixture away to Zhejiang in the Champions League, but these balls are becoming a bit of a feature for Sydney.
Yeah, that's 3 balls now that have gone across the 6-yard area of Melbourne City. And lucky for them, there hasn't been a Sydney player on the end of it.
Corner clipped in by Mack. On the volley was Bratton, didn't really get hold of it. Drop here for Burgess. Nice manoeuvre to get it out to Mack. And unfortunately for Sydney, he was offside. He's not quite been in his groove today, Robbie Mack.
No, I think he's been very subdued. I know what he's capable of. He just seems to be a little off the mark today. A couple of occasions where I thought he might take a player on.
That's a nice touch from McLaren, and there's a little bit of contact from Ryan Grant just on the edge of the penalty area. And despite Grant's protests, it is going to be a free kick for Melbourne City. Yeah, it's clumsy, and he does enough to just knock him off his feet.
Yeah, we've got no disagreements on that one. Jamie McLaren using his body well there. And Grant just rather fumbled into the back of him, didn't he?
Big chance this for Melbourne City. Andrew Redmayne has to get that wall absolutely right. Tolgay Arslan and Aziz Bajic, the 2 potential takers. Would probably suit Arslan more as the right footer, but we'll see. Sydney have got the draft excluder behind the wall. Here's Tolgay Arslan, and the ball stands tall and does its job. Ferried back by Talbot. Driven crossfield by Nuno Reis, but nobody there for City. And Jamie McLaren just cutting a rather forlorn figure inside the penalty area, saying, well, you've got to try and find me.
Well, you give him opportunities and he'll score goals for you. And thus far in this match, he hasn't had a glimpse.
Well, he's still on the field, so we presume that his wife is not ready to give birth just yet. We have been told pre-game that if that call is made, Jamie McLaren will be withdrawn, so he can attend the birth of his child. Not sure that conversation is as friendly as the half smiles make it out to be. Ryan Grant is a real competitor. Arslan is not shy either. Back by Bajic for City. Supran. He and Hamza Saki, incidentally, both teammates at Auxerre, and where Hamza Saki is on loan. Sydney have pilfered the ball back, and Max Burgess slips it through. Big chance for two. It's Joe Lolly, and it's a fine stop by Jamie Young to keep Melbourne City perhaps in the game.
Well, they did well on the press, and then to go quickly, Max Burgess releasing the pass. Joe Lolly takes one touch, and it's a great finish across Jamie Young, who gets down well with a great touch down low to his right.
Sydney pushing for that all-important second goal. Max corner. Up and away. It goes from the City defence. Sydney FC appealing for handball, but the whistle had already gone. And Girdwood Reich, suffering from a touch of cramp, gets a helping hand from Nuno Reis.
It's good sportsmanship, isn't it?
Liam Reddy wouldn't have that, would he? Or Sasha Ognanovsky.
Well, there's a few of the older generation that would be saying, what are you doing? Leave it alone.
An hour played in Melbourne. Second semi-final between the Melbourne Knights and Brisbane Roar to follow. City still shading possession, but finding chances hard to come by. Arslan. Forward by Nuno Reis, and Jamie McLaren in behind, but Redmayne out together. Yep. He's saying that's a bit better.
Yeah. Maybe just a little too straight, skipping off the pitch, straight through to Andrew Redmayne, but that's what Jamie McLaren does well.
There's those two again, Wood and Nuno Reis. If you are just tuning in, then it's Pat Wood who's got the most significant touch, scoring the goal that separates the two just before half-time. Incidentally, Melbourne City only kept scoreless once all season during the A-League campaign last year. That was in a goalless draw against Brisbane away from home. They've got 30 minutes here at Amy Park to prevent it from becoming a double blank if you include the game against Venfret Kofu in the Champions League during the week. This reworked team. Yep, check of the watch from Rado Vidicic. Whether Max Caputo might be an option for him off the bench. A little bit more physicality, maybe alongside McLaren.
Well, it's about that time, isn't it? You saw the look of the watch there. He must be thinking, we've got to do something here. It's probably been, you could say, a little bit flat for Melbourne City compared to their first half performance. Jamie McLaren has seemed rather isolated.
Talking of changes, Steve Corica did promised that at some point we would see two or possibly all three of Sydney FC's new signings. And if Joel King can't recover from this particular problem, then I dare say we might see Jordan Courtney Perkins, who's one of them. The two Brazilians, the others, Fabio Gomes and Gabriel Lacerda. Well, there you go. I am the soothsayer. So Sydney FC debut for Jordan Courtney Perkins, who's signed from Raka Częstochowa in Poland, where he actually won the cup with that particular club on as a replacement for Joel King. Looking to do his bit to potentially set up an Australia Cup final, maybe against his old club, Brisbane Roar, depending on how their semi-final with the Melbourne Knights plays out. He played the majority of the season last year as a left back or left wing back for Brisbane Roar, so he's perfectly accustomed to playing that position, even though he's perhaps more naturally a central defender. City have just completely lost their rhythm at the moment. Well, Max Caputo, he did say that perhaps that was the change that needed to be made. A little bit more physicality in attack. And Terry Antonis is on for Tolgay Arslan as well. He's been off the bench now in all 4 of Melbourne City's cup ties this season. So Rado Vidosic has made his move. Alessandro Lopane takes his leave, along with Arslan. But there's much more to come from him.
Yeah, definitely. Very cultured midfielder. Looks like a player who will be pulling the strings for the season for Melbourne City.
Tolman. It's asking a bit too much of Terry Antonis. Supriyan. Given away by Nuno Reyes. Burgess. Rodwell. Caceres. Hamza Saki guilty of holding. Oh, one of the Sydney FC subs has just taken a tumble inside the technical zone. Slippy, those surfaces. I think it's the new signing,
Gabriel
Lacerda.
He's injured before he's even got on.
It's those boards, and you wear the boots, and it's like walking on glass, isn't it?
Well, he's just learned a lesson there about the Australian bench area.
See, maybe if we got a shot of that from a different angle, but anyway, no harm done. Lacerda's okay, and probably going to be on the pitch pretty shortly. Patrick Wood's not going to give this one up. Thought the ball was perhaps going to run out for a throw. Supriyan. Nuno Reyes. Caputo.
Well done. Delay a little bit, he's moving.
Supriyan. Tony's trying to pick his way through. Saki. Turned back by Antonis. Supriyan again. Saki. And it's got away from Bajic. It's just lost all flow for City. And here's another debutant, the Brazilian Gabriel Lacerda. Is going to be introduced at the expense of Jack Rodwell. 24 years of age, 6'3" tall, on loan from Ceará in Brazil, former Palmeiras junior, wearing a number 15 jersey for Sydney, made famous by a certain T. McFlynn back in the day. Worked wide by Antonis. Well, he couldn't get his feet sorted out. Oh, it was a good effort, that. And Redmayne had to be sharp to deny Hamza Saki. Had a bit of dip and a bit of power. A bit of encouragement for Melbourne City. After a rather flat period, it must be said.
Yeah. A little bit of spark injected into the game there. Good in the first half. See there from distance. Redmayne taking no chance. Get across quickly to that near post area. They need a spark, don't they? It's been very flat this second half for Melbourne City. Sydney FC happy for that. 1-0 up. Happy to cruise through the game. Let the game eke away.
Saki is going to become the first Moroccan to play in the A-League men's competition when it kicks off towards the end of October. Here's Burgess. And he draws the contact from Steven Jugarkovic. Not quite sure what Steven Jugarkovic was complaining about there. Clear foul.
Footballers are never in the wrong, Simon. We've discussed this a few times now.
Lolly shapes and then leaves it for Mack. Helped further clear by Antonis. Nodded down by Yakulis. Now they'll look to spring forward. Caputo's on the charge. Sydney got numbers back. Just going to get away from Pat Wood, despite his best efforts. We are into the last 20 minutes, and that shot from Hamza Saki aside, Sydney FC are pretty comfortable with their lead.
Yeah, they haven't been too troubled, particularly in this second half. In the first half, up until Sydney FC scored, I thought that Melbourne City looked a little more dangerous. It's completely changed.
Nice first involvement for Gabriel Lacerda. Driven wide by Ryan Grant, and Burgess is storming forward to try and offer support to Joe Lolly. Might not need him. The deflection! 2-0 Sydney FC! And that might just seal their place in this year's Australia Cup final. And Joe Lolly, after all those assists in the earlier rounds, finally has a goal all of his own.
Well, it's a wonderful releasing pass from Luke Bratton, and he's got one thing on his mind here, Joe Lolly. He's got support play, but he comes inside. This time, he drives inside the box, and he sees it open up for him. Looks like it takes a deflection that takes it over Jamie Young. And he's threatened on a number of occasions to put one away while cutting inside. Well, Melbourne City didn't heed the warnings. Joe Lolly has his goal.
Well, after teeing up so many of his teammates throughout this Australia Cup competition, he will perhaps feel as though he's earned that one. And it's a long way back now for Melbourne City.
Well, we were just discussing how they've been rather tepid in this second half. Well, that's just made the job even more difficult, and it shows how quickly things can turn from Sydney FC, from defence into attack.
Melbourne City's need now ever more urgent. City will get the verdict here. Well, that second goal has certainly brought the intensity back to the contest. Sydney FC now on the brink of the final, and when you think back to the round of 32, they were teetering towards the exit door before Jayden Kucharski scored a 123rd minute equaliser against the Mariners. City not quite out of it just yet. They'll get a throw here.
Well, not only was it a 123rd minute equaliser, it was the, I think, 22nd penalty that Andrew Redmayne put away as well. So they took it right to the edge. And here they are on the brink of another final.
Goal kick. Despite Caputo's best efforts, became Melbourne City's youngest ever scorer when he netted against the Newcastle Jets last season. Rado Vidicic is going to go to his bench once again. Little touch by Antonis. Back by McLaren. Square by Nuno Reis. Suprayen. Under quarter of an hour remaining at Amy Park. Nuno Reis, it's too far wide of McLaren. And Sydney will look to spring forward and kill it off once and for all. Burgess in a good position, it's Max Burgess. I think he was trying to slip it through to Robert Mack on the far side. Joe Lolly drives it with power towards Jamie Young, but City goalkeeper equal to that one. Those gaps are going to open up as City push forward.
If anyone can exploit them, Sydney FC. Joe Lolly, Max Burgess has been in the heart of the attacks. Mac can cause problems.
Talbot. Intelligent ball. Caputo, big chance here. Off the uprights. Jugarkovic to set it up again, and Talbot was off balance. Well, that's the closest Melbourne City have come. Max Caputo grazing the uprights as Rado Vidicic goes to his bench once again.
It's a wonderful ball in from Callum Talbot. Caputo cut inside onto the left foot. It's back off the post. It's the closest they've come for a while.
So Callum Talbot and Aziz Beige, the two fullbacks, make way. And it's a senior debut for 21-year-old Harry Politidis, who sat on the bench once during the A-League campaign last year. Scott Galloway's on as well. He'll play on the right, Politidis on the left. Very highly rated Harry Politidis, captain of the under-21 MPL side. And there is a rumour he's on an MPL contract at the moment, but may just be about to be upgraded to a full-time deal. That's how highly they rate him, maybe even as a long-term successor to the likes of Geordie Boss. But he's chasing back now as Sydney look to kill off the game once and for all. Joe Lolly. Easily inside, tries to steer it into the far corner. Jamie Young holds them up for now. City looking tired. Robert Mack. It's Lolly. And Ryan Grant trying to steal him behind, but Young out to smother.
Well, he got a lesson there, didn't he?
Sure did.
Keep Joe Lolly off his left foot, please. Rado Vidicic saying, when you get the ball, just go forward. We need to go forward. He still has to perform those defensive duties as well with such a dangerous player against him.
Well, Sydney have been good today, Macca, but I'm interested in your verdict on Melbourne City. We know they've got injuries. We know that they're integrating a lot of new players, as a lot of A-League clubs will be. What do you make of their performance today?
Look, I'll be honest, first half I thought they were looking pretty good. They were moving the ball around. I thought their midfield was dominating. And I think the goal from Patrick Wood changed that. The flow of the game changed a little. The second half, they've been a shadow of that first half. And he had a great opportunity, didn't he, Yakulis? At 0-0, he really should have put Melbourne City ahead, which probably would have changed the whole complexion. They could have capitalised while dominating the game as they were. They might not be in the position they're in now. I think Sydney FC, they've defended well as a unit. They've been very structured very well, and when they go on, win the ball, they go forward quickly. Joe Lolly, again, has been a standout, but that man, Jamie McLaren, he's hardly seen the ball, and he's hardly seen the ball at all anywhere near Sydney FC's box.
And Jamie McLaren is, as we mentioned so many times before, he's the sort of player that, without service, he's not necessarily involved in the game.
Yeah, well, Jamie will tell you himself, he's not
Yeah.
going to pick the ball up and run past 2 or 3 players and bang one in the top corner. He relies on the service of his teammates. If he doesn't get that, he's going to get very frustrated very quickly, because he's become very accustomed to receiving the best service there is.
It's a nicely angled ball out wide by Nuno Reis. Might still be hope for City. The last 10 minutes. In comes the cross. And the shot is charged down. It's going to be a corner. Yakulis again. Or rather, Antonis, I should say. I thought it was Yakulis. Maybe the beard deceived me.
That's one thing Sydney FC have done well. Desperation in the box, numbers to defend, getting bodies in front of shots. Protected that man, Andrew Redmayne, very well.
Still a job to do. Saki to take this corner for Melbourne City. They could really do with a goal. That close, nodded in, and there is appeal for handball before Patrick Woods sweeps it up over halfway. And Jamie Young takes his time before floating it back towards the penalty area. And now Sydney will stymie all that forward momentum. And Steve Corica is going to make another change here. We're going to see a Sydney FC debut for a second Brazilian, Fabio Gomez, at the expense of Robert Mack, who's been a touch quiet tonight, but very interested to see what this striker could do. 26, very tall, reputedly very quick.
Looks like they're going straight to a top 2, front 2 up there, alongside Patrick Wood.
He's had a rather eclectic playing career so far, you could say, Fabio Gomez. 23 goals in 54 matches for Este in his homeland, and then on to Albirex Niigata, New York Red Bulls, Atletico Mineiro, and then in Portugal last year, where he failed to score for Pacos de Ferreira. Here comes City. Wide it goes from Harry Politidis.
That's what Rado Vidicic said he wanted him to do, get forward. As the ball comes across, nice little layoff there. Yakulis strikes it, just drags it across the goal.
City playing with a fair bit of energy now. They know that it's desperation time if they're to keep their hopes alive in this year's Australia Cup. Lacerda with the latest invention. Another corner for Hamza Saki to deliver. Decent shape to it, pushed away by Redmayne. It's a heavy touch by Jugarkovic. Sydney survived that pretty comfortably. Jugarkovic. Molatidis. Yakulis. Held up briefly by Caceres. It's well defended. Really well defended by Sydney. Antonis. Galloway. Sat nicely for him, Scott Galloway. He's not scored since the A-League Grand Final of 2021 against Sydney FC.
It was a neat build-up play. See there, just gets a little lucky with the bounce and it pops up. It's for a volley.
Another change imminent for Melbourne City. Zane Schreiber standing by. He actually arrived at Melbourne City from Sydney FC during the off-season. He was part of the NPL New South Wales team. Into the last 5 minutes. Melbourne City desperate to give themselves a sniff. Caputo. Bratton. Grant. Look at that for a ball. Superb from Caceres. Burgess. And side netting. Some of the Sydney FC fans inside the ground thought that was game over. He scored at that end of the ground against Melbourne Victory last season. Max Burgess, as mentioned, also got a red card. And there is Zane Schreiber, who actually made his debut off the bench against Wellington Phoenix in the round of 16. For Melbourne City, still just 18 years of age. And on to play against his former club. Great experience for him. Described as a typical number 6.
I thought you were going to give us a description of a typical number 6.
Zane Schreiber. Hush falls around Amy Park. You could hear that thud off the boot of Andrew Redmayne. Echo around the stadium. Here is Schreiber. That's a typical number 6. There you go.
Yep. I'm across it now, see?
Any questions, just ask, Macca. Clever work by Antonis. Galloway. Schreiber. Antonis. Redmayne out to gather safely. And the clock ticks over into the 89th minute. Barring a miraculous late recovery, Sydney FC are going to be in their 4th cup final. Who will it be against? Melbourne Knights or Brisbane Roar to follow. Pluto's cross blocked. Burgess. Wood protects it away from Zane Schreiber. Oh, and then gives it away so carelessly, and Jamie McLaren could not miss. It's the only chance he's had all game. He only needs one, and Melbourne City have late hope. And what a disastrous ball back that was from Pat Wood. What was he thinking?
Well, he's tried to overplay that. I think he had support play on the inside in the midfield. Just looked to play it back to the centre-back, who did not want the ball. Initially did well here, strength. And what you can't see there is a midfielder inside looking for the ball. And Lucedo just was not expecting the pass, and he hasn't had any support or opportunities created by his teammates today, but Jamie McLaren wasn't going to squander that one, and all of a sudden we're set up for a nervy final few minutes for Sydney FC.
Jamie McLaren wants the ball. Well, a late scare for Sydney FC, and Jamie McLaren has been so peripheral this afternoon. You just give him that little half chance. He's not going to miss from there, is he?
He doesn't care who it comes from. He'll put it away. And credit to him as well. As a striker, coming on to the 90th minute, hasn't had hardly any involvement really in the match. To be alert enough to be switched on, to get there, and to dink it over the keeper, it's a sign of the striker he is.
Well, it's his third goal in this year's Australia Cup, Jamie McLaren, but is it going to be enough to help launch a late City fight back? Steve Corica, you would imagine, would be absolutely cooking because they were so comfortable.
Have a look at him on the sideline. Yeah. I think he heard you. Let's have a look. He did really well here. And you see just inside, Luke Bratton is saying, just give me the ball. Serta's thinking, well, he's going to do that. No way was he going to pass it there. And Jamie McLaren says, thank you very much.
Well, City now have a glimmer of hope. Politidis. A little back heel by Antonis Yakulis. It cannons back off Grant and thumped away to safety by Luke Bratton. And Gomez is onto it. Tall and powerful and strong. And Nuno Reis, was he holding him back there? I fancy it might have been, you know. But there's no whistle.
Look again. Definitely, it's a rugby tackle,
That's
isn't
a foul.
it? Yeah.
And if it's a foul there, then it's possibly a red card as well.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, we were just talking about how Sydney were cruising their way into the final. And you said barring a miraculous comeback, well, all of a sudden, it's game on. You can see the urgency from the City players now. Have another look here.
Well, he's clear, isn't he, Gomez? If he gets around Nuno Reis. Yeah, I think they got away with one there, Melbourne City. And I tell you what, if City get a late equaliser here, that might form part of Steve Corica's post-game press conference. City pushing. Nodded away by Burgess in the left-back position. Schreiber. Suprayet. 2.5 minutes of the added 5 already played. A foul by Girdwood Reich. Pressure building on Sydney FC. Can they hang on? Can Melbourne City force extra time?
It's a rather silly foul to give away there, isn't it, at this time of the match?
Saki on set-piece duty again, with Tolgay Arslan now having been substituted, of course. Aaron looking to make his move at the back post. It goes left instead. Politidis, a dangerous ball in. Sydney deal with that. Back comes City. Fabio Gomez is after this one, but the whistle's gone. Sydney FC will take all the time they possibly can. which is why Redmayne, our fanciers, wandered off into an area of the pitch that the free kick was nowhere near. All little bits of psychology to try and run down the clock, which now shows we have a minute to play. Brought down by Schreiber. City have got to be quick. Saki. Antonis. Not the best release from Antonis, but it's retrieved by Galloway. Caputo trying to move it on quickly, but too quick for Terry Antonis. And Courtney Perkins can't wrap his boot around it. This might be the last chance for Melbourne City. Schreiber, intelligent header. Just not able to keep it alive. Max Caputo. And that might just be that for Melbourne City. On balance, deserved though, if this is the way it ends up.
Yeah, I think so. It's been a good contest, but I think Sydney FC really nullified Melbourne City, particularly in the second half. It's taken an errant back pass for Jamie McLaren to get the merest of sniffs of an opportunity. I think Sydney FC have been good for the victory, if it remains this way.
A few more seconds to be played yet. Melbourne City fans trying to urge their team forward, but it's too late. Too little too late in the end. Patrick Wood's error was no more costly than that of Jamie McLaren's goal. Joe Lolly on target after all those assists, after Pat Wood had put Sydney FC in front in the first half. And on balance, it's probably the right result. Sydney FC were good again at Amy Park this afternoon. They avenged last year's semi-final loss in the A-League as they secure their spot in the Australia Cup final for the fourth time against either the Melbourne Knights or Brisbane Roar. Full time at Amy Park. Melbourne City 1, Sydney FC 2. Well, a disappointing week for Melbourne City. An insipid goalless draw against Venfred Kofu in the Champions League. And now a first competitive home loss at Amy Park since the grand final of 2022. Nuno Reyes perhaps a little bit fortunate he didn't end the game. Watching from the sidelines, it looked a clear foul on Fabio Gomes, but it went unpunished by the officials. Sydney FC, who throughout the course of the 90 minutes created the better of the opportunities. Joe Lolly with a handful of them before he finally took one in the 73rd minute. They are through to another major final. Whether it will be played in Sydney or in Brisbane or here in Melbourne will be determined by the outcome of that second semi-final between the Knights and the Roar. Sydney FC can celebrate another major final. You might remember 12 months ago, Steve Corica came under all sorts of pressure when he lost in this competition to the Oakley Cannons in the quarterfinals. That, coupled with a poor start to the A-League, had him under the pump. But this year, it's been the cup of plenty for Sydney FC, despite very nearly toppling out to the Mariners in the round of 32. They are through to the final, and let's get some reaction now with Zappa.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. Sydney FC captain Luke Bratton with me. Congratulations, Luke. Another final for Sydney FC. You make a habit of it. Must be pleasing, especially this stage of the season, to get great game time and get some rewards for it.
Yeah, it's good. Obviously, it wasn't the greatest performance from us, but it was professional. It's a hard place to come. They're a fantastic team. Last two finals we come here and we've lost, so it's good to come here and win. And yeah, it's silverware at the end of the day, up for grabs. So yeah, was happy.
And plenty of depth and competition in the squad so early in the season. The starting 11 from last week rewarded this week with a start as well. Good to see some of the youngsters coming through. What's impressed you most about some of the younger boys?
just the energy. You know, the training standard's been good. The boys are fit. You know, we're playing a different style. We're trying to press a little bit more. Yeah, and they're just enthusiastic. They've got a lot of energy, and you know, like you said, they've been rewarded for good performances.
I'm not sure what they're feeding him in Brazil, but the two new boys are well over 6 foot. They're going to be handy for you.
Yeah, obviously Fabio up front is different to what we've got. So he's only been here a couple of weeks, so it's exciting to see what he can do. And then Gabby at the back as well. He's a class footballer. You can see already the couple of sessions he's had. He's silky on the ball, and yeah, like you said, it's depth for the squad.
The next semi-final's on now. Back to the hotel and tune into that one.
Straight to the airport.
Straight to the airport. Back home tonight. All right, all the best, and look forward to seeing you next week.
Cheers up.
All right, congratulations to Luke Bratton. Jamie McLaren, the goal scorer for Melbourne City this afternoon. Jamie, but wasn't enough in the end. What went wrong, do you think?
Oh, we started a little bit slow. You know, gave up possession quite easily, and you know they're a good side, so they will punish you at times. And it was a cracking finish by Woody anyway. So, but you know we huffed and puffed, but in the end we're still not creating enough. And you know, you saw even my goal was a mistake by them. So, look, it's games are coming thick and fast now. We've got Champions League next week, so yeah, head down and just work on the things that need fine tuning.
Righto, Vidicic spoke about it during the game. There's plenty of games coming at this time of the year for you, more than other clubs in the A-League men's competition. How does that set you up for the season?
It'll help us because we've got such a turnover of players, new boys that you need to understand and gel with and learn their cues, and they're going to learn my cues. So, like I said, it's a slow burner. It's a new team. You have to be patient. We're going to be patient. We ask our fans to be a little bit patient. I know it might be frustrating at times. We never like losing at home, that's for sure. So we'll rectify that, and the new boys that come here will get used to this place and try and make it a fortress again.
Yeah, I think we spoke about it during the pre-game. Only 3 players in the starting 11 today that were part of the squad last year. But more importantly for you, away from the football field, you've got a big week coming up this week. How's everything back home?
Tell you what, she's a stubborn girl. I thought she was going to be out last week. So any minute now, my wife's doing super. I'm really proud of her. And yeah, if it's not in the next 24 hours, it'll happen on Wednesday. So I'm excited, as any dad would be. So yeah, it's a proud moment for me and my family. So
all the best for the week, and we wish Eva as well all the best.
Thanks, Apples. Cheers, mate.
An impending congratulations to Jamie McLaren ahead of the birth of his daughter. On the field, didn't go the way that he and his Melbourne City teammates would have liked. It certainly did for Sydney FC, through to a 4th Australia Cup final. They lost the final in 2016 on that ground to Melbourne City, won it in 2017, lost in 2018, and they are back in the decider in 2023 under Steve Corica. Who will they face?